Hare Krishna. We will continue from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 9. This is where we ended off last time. It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord, and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him. So it is said that hearing about a pure devotee is extremely purifying, and their good qualities, as we glorify their good qualities, those good qualities also come upon us. So let's pay attention about the most glorious Parikshit Maharaj, pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, because of whom Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. And is the grandson of the Pandavas of Arjuna. Son of Arjuna? Grandson of Arjuna. Okay, we'll find out. All right. Aparna is here, so please do the honors. 1.4.10.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
1.4.10. Sa samrat kasya vahitoha pandunam manavardana prayo pavishto gangayam anadritya dhirat shriyam. He was a great emperor and possessed all opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death?
Okay, next. Should
1.4.
Hold on, let me just quickly. He was a great emperor, possessed all the opulence of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. So he's coming directly from the Pandavas. Why did he give up everything to sit on the bank of the Ganges and fast until death? So this is a process of dying that many people follow, fasting till death, especially at the when it's clear that the body will no longer function. Like Srila Prabhupada, he actually, his last, I think, several weeks of his life, he only survived on cucumber juice. He didn't want to eat anything. He didn't want to extend his life, but he realized body is almost there. He kind of decided to fast from everything, just survived on cucumber juice. So many people, many devotees, even after Prabhupada, have tend to do that. But again, it's not mandatory or anything like that. Just like Satidaha Pratha, right? Many people badmouth is Hinduism because of Sati practices. But Sati practice is not something that is mandatory. It is something that a chaste wife often would choose to die with her husband out of love for her husband, not that something is forced upon. Of course, later on down the ages, it so happened that the Brahminical society became corrupt and they would forcefully get young girls killed in the Satidaha process, which was a cultural toxic crime, rather, I would say, but nothing that reflects on the Vedic aspect. From the Vedic perspective, a chaste wife who's willing to die on the funeral pyre of her husband is considered not suicide and doesn't come with the karma of suicide. That's all. But it does not force anyone to do that. So just like we have the right to live, the Vedic system gives us the right to die in our own terms. Often we see in the Western world, when somebody is terminally ill, they want to, reduce the suffering and, have a quick and normal, death with their loved ones around, with their favorite music playing. Now it's illegal in certain places and it's legal in certain places. But in the Vedic system, this process is very much allows us, it's inclusive process of death. How we choose to die is our choice, and it is not considered suicide when it is in the purview of spiritual consciousness. Again, things may get misused, so certainly we know that, but just bringing that context into play. Go ahead.
4.11 Namanti yat adanikitam atmanaham Sivaya haniya dhanani satravaha Katham saviraha Shriyam anga dushtayajam Yuve satostratum aho saha subhihi. He was such a great emperor that all enemies would come and and bow down at his feet and surrender all his wealth for his own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything,
Including his life. Okay, Aparna, I think you're having internet issues. Or you got muted. Okay. All right. So he was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. Because a good king would take care of his enemies also, right? And would use the wealth in a way that benefits all. He was full of youth and strength. He possessed kingly opulence that were difficult to give up. Why did he give up everything, including his life? Aparna, are you able to read? Anybody else wants to read?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
able to read. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
You
Was
got
I not
muted.
audible?
Now you're audible, yes.
Okay, which
We are in
chapter?
1:4:12.
Okay. Sorry about that. 1.4.12 Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaya ya uttama sloka parayana janaha jivanti natmartham asau parasyam mumocha nirvidya kuta kalevaram. Translation: Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So, even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was the shelter for others?
So those who are devoted to the cause of personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. Selfless, right? It's actually Mahatma Gandhi made a quote that said, selfishness is more paying. It's just people don't have the patience to practice this. When you become a devotee of Krishna, there is so much happiness in being selfless, in serving others, making others happy, at the expense of sometimes your own happiness. Now, it can be, again, under proper guidance, this can be a very wonderful thing to experience and for others to experience. But when there is no guidance, one can get exploited also. So be very careful. Being selfless and getting exploited are two very different things. Being selfless by choice, wanting to see the happiness of others and pushing the benefit of Krishna consciousness to others, it's a choice. It shouldn't be the case that somebody twists your arm and tries to take advantage of you, right? Which happens a lot in the name of religion. Often people say, "Arey, what will you do with so much money? Give it to the temple, give it to charity, give it." No, that's, no one can tell you that. Only if you desire, you can do it. So don't get exploited. but at the same time understand the glories of being selfless. It is called labor of love, right? Often we take up unnecessary problems on ourselves for the sake of propagating Krishna consciousness. I've shared this with you before. My spiritual master took up a case, lawsuit. For 17 years, he fought that lawsuit with the Ritwiks, those people who call themselves ISKCON but are not ISKCON, because they took over one of the temples in New York, Long Island. And you know what they do? The so-called brahmachari became one of the wealthiest people in there, using ISKCON's properties, taking it over illegally. And as he got rich, he was able to fund the lawsuit and extend it and repeal after repeal. Whereas my Guru Maharaj, being a sannyasi, which pretty much means a beggar, could only survive on donations, and whatever donations he was getting, with that he was fighting this case and eventually won after 17 long years of struggle. Now, why would somebody do that? Somebody who has no family, who has no earnings, who has no residence, who has no nothing. He's a sannyasi. Why would he do that? For the pleasure of Krishna. Why would Srila Prabhupada come to New York City when he can easily leave his body in Vrindavan, have the nice, gentle, breeze, and Mother Yamuna, and, Vrindavan back then was not this crowded. Prabhupada made it crowded because of ISKCON and his preaching. But Vrindavan back then was not like this. Hardly anybody there. It was, koels singing and, parrots chirping and fresh fruits and beautiful roads. Vrindavan was a beautiful village. Prabhupada could have happily lived in Krishna consciousness and ecstasy and left his body, but he took on the labor of love, right? Where to stay in New York City in the bitter cold with no bathroom, staying in a place with no bathroom. Imagine that, right? He had to walk 4 blocks to just use the washroom, and to eat, he had to cook for Mayavadis. And he was not allowed to speak a single word, because they knew if he opens his mouth, people would follow him. For 1 year, he did this before he became, he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So it is important to understand that for propagation of Krishna consciousness, it is absolute joy to take on difficulties. And when you take on those difficulties, understand as impact of that, thousands and thousands of people are going to be liberated from the chakravyuh of birth and death. Because of Srila Prabhupada, we exist. We never saw Srila Prabhupada. He never saw us. But his sacrifices allowed these temples that are spiritual oases around the world. And countries that had no holy space, right? They have holy places because of Srila Prabhupada's efforts. Whether it's Australia, Brazil, United States, United Kingdom, these are not places where they have dhams, but they have dham today. I have been very fortunate to have grown up in New Seva Kunj Dham. Those of you who went to Vrindavan know Seva Kunj. We went there, where Radha Krishna have their very intimate pastimes. So Chicago temple is called New Seva Kunj Dham. So like that, Prabhupada created so many dhams around the world, right? Germany is, I think, Ahubalam Dham, if I remember correctly. Like that, all these different places, Prabhupada renamed them after various holy places of the Lord, and created holy places around the world. And thousands of people continue to become fortunate as a result of his, labor of love, sleeping 2 hours a day, doing so much. So Parikshit Maharaj is such a person. Parikshit Maharaj, when he heard he's going to die, he decided, oh, I'm going to die in 7 days. Okay. Instantly, he took off his royal robes, gave his kingdom to his son, wore a dress of a mendicant, and ran towards the Ganges, where great saintly persons were there. Shukadev Goswami was there, reached out to him and said, my dear Shukadev Goswami, please tell me about Krishna. And thus we have Srimad Bhagavatam. Because of him, because of his sacrifice for 7 days, 7 nights, he kept on asking all the pertinent questions. And eventually, no food, no drink, no sleep. When the 7 days happened, his, very mystically, he left his body, and that was it. So that's why they're asking, great king, with great wealth, even his enemies would fall at his feet. Such a person, why did he fast to death? Why did he leave everything? Why did he? So that's what we're hearing about. Such a great person. Well, he did it for us. That's the answer. So we should also think, can I leave something for the next generation? Can I make some sacrifices that can benefit others in receiving this great fortune of Krishna consciousness? Those who are devoted to the cause of personality of Godhead live for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for their selfish interest. So even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachments to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was a shelter for others, for a higher purpose? Like Lord Chaitanya, right? When he left his beautiful wife, beautiful mother, many people said, how could he leave, those who are dependent on him? These two ladies are dependent on him, and he leaves and becomes a sannyasi. Well, for a higher purpose, because him becoming a sannyasi would mean so many people getting access to bhakti. And the two ladies who suffered because of his departure, Lord Chaitanya sent people to take care of them, made sure they're taken care of financially, food-wise, socially, everything was taken care of. But they chose to not take those advantage. In fact, Lord Chaitanya's wife, Vishnupriya Devi, she would eat only so many grains of rice that she would chant Hare Krishna. Right? So how many rounds she would chant is that many grains of rice, not just mantras. I'm talking about rounds. That many grains of rice she would eat. And eventually she merged into the body of Shonar Gauranga. There is a deity of Lord Gauranga. Just like Lord Gauranga merged into the body of Tota Gopinath, same with Vishnupriya Devi. So these are not common personalities, but it is still an example to see that he left his family duties for a higher purpose. The purpose of propagating Krishna consciousness in the eastern part of India and eventually all of India. We walked throughout India, all the way to South India, West India, East India, North India. He met Guru Nanak in North India, right? So he went out. So he spread Krishna consciousness wherever he went and made holy places by his lotus foot, touching those places. So it's important to understand that there are duties and then there are higher duties and higher purposes in life. I'm not saying you should leave your family. Please don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is just be open to that idea in case one of us or some of us are so fortunate to get that opportunity. So in this case, last slide, how could he give up this mortal body, which was the shelter for others? Well, shelter for his citizens, yes, but him coming and creating or being the instrument for Srimad Bhagavatam resulted in thousands and thousands of years of people getting pure devotional understanding of how to become a devotee of Krishna. Because this book does not talk about anything else. It only talks about bhakti. Bhakti to Krishna, nobody else. That reminds me, I forgot to say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My apologies. So this Bhagavatam is about Vasudev, Krishna. It's nothing else. Okay, text 30.
Tatsarvam naha samakshasvam prishtoyan iha kinchana manyatvam vishayavacham snatam anyatra chandasat. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Chandrima a question. Chandrima, who's speaking to who right now? And also, you did that exercise. Sorry, last Friday I forgot. Could you also walk us through of the various folds of who's talking to who and where we are right now?
Yes, definitely, Prabhuji. So how it happens is that initially, after Vasudev had compiled everything, and Narad Muni comes and tells him that this is not the essence, you have not included Krishna. He compiled Vedanta Sutra, and that is what that is the base of Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. Though, like Prabhuji mentioned the previous day, his son, Sri Sukadev Goswami, he was already enlightened and he did not need the knowledge. But since it is a Guru Shishya Parampara thing, he still got the lesson from his father on Vedanta Sutra. And that is what he is passing over to Parikshit Maharaj. And so when Sukhdev Goswami was passing on the knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj in his last days, Suta Goswami happened to be present there. And he listened to that entire conversation, and that became Bhagavatam. And now here the story flows that now Suta Goswami, when he is traveling to Naimisharanya, there the sages are asking Suta Goswami all these questions, and he will be answering to their questions. So overall, everything combined is what again Vyasadev is commenting on everything. So this entire flow of conversation is again commented by Vyasadev, and that is the Srimad Bhagavatam what we are reading right now.
My humble obeisances at your lotus feet for understanding this.
No, Prabhuji. It is. I might be wrong any of these places. I will also find out, but this is my understanding until now.
So if anybody has any doubts, you could ask Chandrima Mataji, and she will explain it, who's talking to who at any given point. Because it's very easy to kind of lose track, and it's folds within folds within folds. All right, thank you so much, Mataji, for doing the research and showing us the path.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. We know that you're the expert in meaning of all subjects except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have put to you. Sutta uvacha dvapare samanuprapte tritiye yuge paraye jata parasarad yogi Vasavyam Kalaya Hare. Suta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadev was born to Parashar in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. Sa kadachit sarasvatya upas prisya jalam suchi vivikta eka ashina udite ravi mandale. Once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the water of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. The river Saraswati is flowing in the Badrika Ashram area of the Himalayas. That's where Vyasadeva resides, even today. It's Transcendental Badrika Ashram. So the place indicated here is Samya Prasa in Badrika Ashram, where Shri Vyasadeva is residing. Okay, go ahead, Aparna.
1.4.16 Paravara Jnana Sarshi Kalena Vyakta Rabhasya Yuga Dharma Vyati Karmaram Praptam Bhuvi Yuge Yuge. The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time.
As Krishna says, Yuga Yuga he comes to fix, the atheism aspect of things. When people become atheistic, dharma is in danger. Krishna comes in various forms. Same here, Yuga Yuga is used where Vyasadev has come, where he sees anomalies in the duties of the millennium or Yuga Dharma. When the Yuga Dharma is not being properly done, Krishna comes in his original form or in the form of his representatives to fix that. So Vyasadeva is such a form. Okay, next verse, 17, 18.
17 and 18. Bhautikānam cha bhavanam Kshatrihasam cha tatkritam Asraddhanam nisatvan Durmedhan rasitayusaha Durбhagamscha janan viksya munirdivyena chakshusha sarvavarnashramanam yad datyao hitam amoghadrikam. The great sage, who was fully equipped in knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus, he contemplated for the welfare of men in all statuses and orders of life.
So there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that I think we have read already. Prayanalpayusa sabhya kalau asmin yuge janaha manda sumanda mateo manda bhagya upadritaha, which means that in Kali Yuga, manda, sumanda, very bad time. Sumanda bhagya, everything is bad. So age deteriorates, memory deteriorates, right? Lifespan, etc., etc. Honesty, ethics, everything deteriorates in Kali Yuga. So Vyasadeva was noticing that this is happening. These are signs of Kali Yuga. And so any great personality would be concerned for the benefit of others. Like, okay, this is happening. He could also see the faithless people in general would be reduced to in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus, he contemplated for the welfare of men in all statuses of life. Such is a devotee, always thinking for the welfare of mankind. Go ahead.
Chaturhotram karma shuddham prajanam viksya vedikam vyadadhat yagna santatye vedam ekam chaturvedam. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, we divided the one Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men.
So he saw the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which people's occupation could be purified. So although there is impurity, there is a means to purify in Kali Yuga, that is through sacrifice. What is the sacrifice that we are doing? Anyone? To purify our existence, chanting. Yes, chanting of the holy names. Nam Yagya. There's fire sacrifice. There is also sacrifice of the holy name. And through the Nam Yagya process, we are purifying our existence, purifying our activities. The taxes we pay go into killing innocent people in war. The money that we earn often is coming from an industry that might be, somehow or other supporting killing of cows, right? So in Kali Yuga, there is no hiding, there is no running away. We are part of the system, and we can't live in the forest. We can, some people do, but most of us can't. So how do we purify our existence, given everything that is there? That is through the chanting of the holy name, right? So so that's why it's very important. In Kali Yuga, you can still be purified, you can still have access to how Satya Yuga used to be, and that is when we have the process to purify our existence. And to simplify that process, which again, a great teacher does, right? A Shaktivesh avatar of the Lord is there to use, or Acharya is there to use whatever tools are available, and according to time, place, and circumstance, simplify the knowledge of the Vedas so that it is accessible to common people. At the same time, not dilute the message at all, right? So there is no question of diluting the message. At the same time, can it be simplified? So Srila Prabhupada translated these books from Sanskrit and Bengali to English. Why English? Because English is the common man's language globally. Majority of the world is communicating via this language. Now, since Srila Prabhupada, his books have been translated to hundreds of languages, right? But as an Acharya, what did he do? He made it available through books. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, he was the first. He said Brihat Mridanga, which is the Mridanga. When you play the Mridanga, people can hear the holy name and sounds of the Mridanga. But when you have a printing press, it is called the Brihad Mridanga because it can reach further than the sound of Mridanga, right? So that was Bhaktisiddhanta's vision. And he told Srila Prabhupada, his only instruction, if you have money, print books. And Srila Prabhupada took it to his heart, and he created the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, BBT, as we call it. And under that book trust, we have so many books Srila Prabhupada and his disciples have written to preserve the culture and make it relevant for the English-speaking crowd. Not only that, technology has been used, right? So in Vyasadev's case, he used the technology of Ganesha, who could write very fast. And Srila Prabhupada's case, he used dictaphones to record his purports, and so somebody could type them and print them and everything else. Books, dictaphone, printing machines, so many things going around the world in airplanes, all kinds of technology. So it is important that we, according to time, place, and circumstance, make things relevant. Now, we are also small teachers in our own way. We're teaching our family about Krishna consciousness. We're teaching our friends about Krishna consciousness. So it is our duty also to make things relevant to people. How do we do that? Today, we do that in the form of PowerPoint, in the form of memes, in the form of Facebook posts, right? We are making things digestible for people to appreciate Krishna consciousness. And because of that, through social media, you see so many people are getting access, at least exposure to Krishna consciousness. And that is a great service to humanity. So in our minds, we should not think Vyasadeva was a great Acharya, Prabhupada was a great Acharya. No, we have been asked that we should become Acharyas. It is instruction for Srila Prabhupada. It is instruction of Lord Chaitanya himself. That Bhajo Krishna, Japo Krishna, Karo Krishna Shikha. That you worship Krishna, you chant his holy name, and you teach people about Krishna. We must become gurus. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has empowered us. He has told us we must become gurus. And he has also said, to become gurus, you have to have full sense control, from tongue, belly, genitals, all the way through. We have to have sense control over these things, sense control over our anger, right? Our mind. So it is important that we have control over ourselves. We learn the scriptures, we purify our lives, and we help make other people's lives pure by sharing, what we are learning. As we are going through the process, we don't have to wait till pure devotion. As we are doing this, to the degree we have purified ourselves, to that degree we can help others who are yet to reach there, right? So at every stage of our bhakti, as we are moving, we're also bringing along those who are slightly behind us, who are also, we can help them through. And thereby a whole society can become Krishna conscious. And that's the purpose behind the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, where we are not perfect, but we are trying our best as we are growing. Our seniors are pulling us and we are pulling our juniors along as we go along. So that's the mood here. And coming all the way from Vyasadeva, this is our disciplic succession. He saw the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided one Veda into 4 in order to expand among men. He also put it in writing. Before that, it was audible. Now it's in writing. So because we can't remember so many verses. It's making things easy for us. Go ahead, Aparna.
Rig Yajuha Samatharvakya Vedas Chatvar Utrita Itihasa Puranam Cha Panchamo Veda Uchyate. The 4 divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately. But the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the 5th Veda.
Okay, so it's important to understand that's where Srimad Bhagavatam falls in that category, right? So now there are the Vedas, of course, there is Samaveda, Yajurveda, Rig Veda, and all of that, right? Atharva Vedas, 4 Vedas. But then they're further subdivided into Aranyakas, Itihasas, and within Itihasas, there is Puranas, and within the Puranas, there is things like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam and other things. So Puranas, and the best of all Puranas is Srimad Bhagavatam. But in Kali Yuga, this is most relevant for us because Upanishads are for a little bit more advanced brains. But for us, we understand stories better. We understand through example, just like a child. If you look at children's books, what do they have? Big pictures, big font, story format, things are being explained through graphical descriptions. Same way, in Srimad Bhagavatam, stories are being spoken, so it's easier for us to digest. If you see Bhagavad Gita, it is an Upanishad. It is Gita Upanishad. So there you only see principle. Whereas here, it is explained through stories and conversations. Again, another tool to make it relevant for us, to help us understand things better. Okay.
Vedadhara Pelaha Samago Jamineha Kaviha Vasampayana Evako Nishnatu Yajusam Uta. After the Vedas were divided into 4 divisions, Pela Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of the Samaveda, and Vasampayana alone became glorified by the Yajurveda.
Next.
Atharvangirasamase Sumantur Daruno Muniha Itihasa Puranam Pita Me Roma Harsanaha. The Sumantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father, Roma Harsana, was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records.
Remember this name, Roma Harsana. Very great Muni and has interesting stories. The reason why his name is Roma Harsana is because he was very hairy. And he had a very long life. And his life was so long, it said that every, I think, yoga cycle, he would lose 1 hair. And that's how long he would live. So very hairy person with the blessing that he would lose one hair every yoga cycle. And when he was asked, why are you always meditating? You have a long life. He said, life is short. I can die any moment. Might as well use my time that I have. So you can understand this mentality. That's just an anecdote about it. There are many things we hear about Roma Harshana Muni. And Roma Harshana Sutta is who we are hearing this from. All right. Okay. Next verse.
Taitarishayo vedam swam swam vyasayan anekadham shishyaha prashishyastasishye vedaste sakhino bhavan. All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas.
You got muted, Aparna.
Until where did you all hear? I actually
Respective
read
branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being.
came
Okay, one
into
more
being.
time, read the translation.
Okay. All these learned scholars in their turn rendered the entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being.
Okay, nothing to explain there.
Taiva Vedadhumedhe Dharyante Purusharyatha Evam Chakara Bhagavan Vyasaha Kripana Vatsalaha. Thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men.
So he was very kind to the people of Kapilyu. He made sure that it is easy to assimilate for us. Like I said, Srimad Bhagavatam also in the heavenly planets. If you happen to go there, you will see it has lakhs of verses, whereas we are fortunate to have only 18,000 verses. That also is very difficult for us to assimilate. Takes us many years to learn the Bhagavatam, but that's Vyasadev's mercy upon us. It is also important to understand something here, that not all knowledge is for everyone, right? I remember in my I'm still immature, but more immature days of Krishna consciousness, any Tom, Dick, and Harry would ask me about creation, and I would get into the whole thing about, the Lord expanding, and universes coming out of the pores of Mahavishnu and all that. Today, when somebody like that, somebody who's not acquainted with Krishna consciousness asks me, I'm a lot more careful, and I try to, kind of give a short answer and move on before it becomes too complicated and sounds like sci-fi, right? So it is important to know, like Srila Prabhupada, one time he was asked by a family that, please tell us about Rasa Leela. Now, Prabhupada is a Rasika Bhakta. He knows about Rasa Leela more than anyone can imagine. But he refused to talk about Rasa Leela, saying, I don't understand it. I don't know. I am not qualified to talk about it. And even if I knew, I would not talk about it in public because it's Krishna's private life and it can be misunderstood. So there are things we don't talk about. And it's important that at what adhikar, so there's a word called adhikar, which means qualification. So there are certain people, there are certain levels of devotees who are qualified to hear about certain things. So a new bhakta who's from India might have certain qualifications because they're born with the idea of Krishna and Radha, might not have the clear idea Krishna as God, might think Krishna as avatar of God or whatever, but still there is something. Whereas if you talk to somebody from Serbia or Croatia, let's say, for whom even Vedic knowledge is a foreign concept, and you talk to them, you have to start from a very, very basic level. You're not this body, your spirit, soul. That's start from there. Not even get into God for the next 5 weeks, right? That's important. One of my friends, he's doing preaching at Stockholm University, Sweden. So Sweden is 80% atheist. Understandably so. Most of Europe is atheistic. They're done with Islam. They're done with Christianity. They're just done with religion. But thankfully, they have some respect for Eastern religions, especially Buddhism. Hinduism, they don't understand, so many hands, so many heads, elephant god, this god, they don't get it. So he is very strategically, pursuing. So he and I both kind of talk, we strategize, we brainstorm how to make things accessible for them. And thereby, like he's showing a movie through which people will get acquainted to the idea of reincarnation. And then I told him, show him a real documentary from YouTube where people are going through hypnotic regression and they're able to go back to their past lives and they're going to those places and identifying those places. So the movie becomes a reality and at least get the concept of reincarnation. Once that happens, we establish that the body dies, but something else moves on. What is that something else? We call it the soul, the Atma. So like that, very strategically, we go step by step, layer by layer, and maybe for 6 months, they won't even know there is something called a temple in Stockholm because it's not necessary. So understandably, strategically bringing people to Krishna consciousness, given where they are, who they are, how much they know, how much they don't know. Sometimes people know too much, right? So you have to unlearn them and then reignite Krishna consciousness, because some people would be like very coming from South Indian Brahmin family, complete Mayavadi, believing I am God, you're God, we're all God. Boy, oh boy, with them, first deal with their ego, glorify them, become their friend, earn their trust, and then slowly clean the toxic idea of I am God, you're God, we're all God, and bringing the God is here, we are separate. And slowly, God is here, we are here, not on the same platform. And slowly, relationship between the supreme and the subservient. And slowly, bhakti and loving relationships and stories and katha and everything comes in. Slowly, taking the steel-framed heart and soothing it and making it soft so that they can accept Krishna consciousness, right? So whoever is wherever, not necessarily everybody can be given every verse. That's why Krishna says 9th chapter, most confidential knowledge, because most confidential knowledge is for Arjun, right? And whoever becomes purer to that level of Arjun can understand 9th chapter better, more intimately as we progress in our Krishna consciousness. Praladananda Swami, one of our ISKCON pillars, he's a great sannyasi and guru. He has he said, he has read the Bhagavad Gita, I think 113 or 135, one of those numbers, right? And he still says that all these chapters, not just 9th chapter, has new meaning every time he studies them. As he's chanting and preaching and, purifying his existence, he's already a great devotee, pure devotee, and he's becoming purer. Even more understanding is coming from the Bhagavad Gita. It's like a cow that gives unlimited milk, right? So that's what is great about Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Krishna's words, that their depth is unlimited. There is no end to the depth of this ocean. And the more we grow, the more we appreciate. But be careful not to share everything you know to everyone, right? Especially to your parents. You have to be careful. We think our parents are more intelligent, more knowledgeable, so they'll understand. They are more intelligent, they are more wise, they have more age, but spiritually, they might get scared. Oh, my child will become a brahmachari, will become, leave everything. Yes, Neera Mataji? Okay. So it's careful that what you share with your family becomes often, they might get scared. Eventually, your transformation will speak for itself. But initially, it is important to have a sense of understanding who is my audience and how much to reveal. Okay. Sri Shudra here also. Please go ahead.
Sri Shudra Dvija Bandhunam Traina Shruti Kocharam Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Evam Bhave Iha Iti Bharatam Akyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this should enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Mahabharata for the women.
Yes. So Mahabharat and such narrations are easy to digest. Now, why? Why? So I understand. Many would be asking, why women laborers? Because at that time, men would go to Gurukul, not women. So men would learn Sanskrit and learn philosophy and other higher things, whereas women did not have that opportunity. But women could hear stories and narrations. Today we watch TV. Back in the days, TV was narration of Mahabharata, Ramayana, and things like that, which allows so those who are not going to school and college, for them also to learn the science of spirituality through the examples of the great characters of Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the great epics. Anybody has any questions on this?
No, I want to thank you for allowing three like us to join the Bhagavatam class and also recite, right? Like there has been a lot of changes, I guess, since then.
As we go through Bhagavatam, in Bhagavatam itself, you will see there were women who were great scholars. Mother Devahuti, who's Kapil Muni's mother, right? She's asking questions and Kapil Muni is answering Krishna consciousness, and she's asking pertinent questions. So it was not that women were all not educated. Most women weren't. Most, people who are Shudras weren't. People who were Brahma Bandhus, that means not Brahmanas, but assistants to the Brahmanas, didn't have that privilege. And what we should look at is how inclusive is the system, that it is thinking for those also. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did this because India 100 years ago was also in the same position. Becoming a barrister, going to England and getting a degree was only for the rich and the aristocrats. But what about those who are farmers, who are commoners? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he actually wrote beautiful songs and poetry, hundreds and hundreds of them, and sent it to various, what are they called? Gram Panchayats, right? Where the elder, the village elder, what is it called? Sarpanch. Such a person would be given FAQs and would be given all these songs and poetries. So thereby in the evening time, there was no electricity, there was no TV. What was the entertainment? Narrating this beautiful poetry and songs and singing those songs. And when people would ask their meaning, the Sarpanch had access to FAQs, frequently asked questions, with answers. And thereby, he was preaching at mass without internet, right? He was mailing these and making it, because Sanskrit was not understandable, but simple Bengali songs, Bengali poetry was understandable, and that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur was preaching. So now, 5,000 years ago, that was Mahabharata being done by Vyasa Dev. For those who didn't have the fortune of learning from a Gurukul, could also get access to education through entertainment in the form of storytelling of these great epics. All right. It is 8:29. Anybody has any burning question or realization you want to share? Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. See you next Friday.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.